Hello, I'm Ibrahim. I am the founder of Unblocked Academy. Unblocked Academy is something that came about as a result of the AI transformation we're going through. I have witnessed how AI, the modern version of AI, driven by large language models, it's really changing the way we do things. It's changing the way we work. It's changing even the nature of work itself. As a software engineer of uh, I've built systems in various languages um, and in multiple environments, different business domains. One of the things that stays consistent has been the importance of systems thinking, being able to understand the different components of the system, how they work together, the various failure modes that comes about from these parts working together. You can think of it as, a watch. In a watch, you have various components working together, the gears. But if any part of it is rusty, it breaks the watch or the clock. Um, and nowadays, I'm seeing that this systems thinking is going to be even more important as we try to protect ourselves, our, our profession, our business, among other things. And one of the things I say is there is a lot of confusion, understandably, about what does AI mean for my profession, what does AI mean for my practice, for my business, and so on. I have come up with this framework. I'm calling it the Unblocked framework that gives us um, a baseline structure to how to understand AI, how to use AI, and how to innovate, how to build on AI. And this has really been helping me on my work with OneCoder, which is a platform for orchestrating coding agents. And I'm going to be talking more about that later on. But this framework has three aspects to it. The level one is what I call the foundation. This is talking about ways to think about these models, ways to understand their capability. Um, we need to have some strategy. We need to have some process in plan. We need to have some foundation before we can start using them. So I see right now a lot of the AI industry, either from the educational side or the business side with SaaS, there's a lot of focus on tools, on like, oh, you have to use the best tools. That is good, but in this era we're in, you need some foundation before you get to the tools level. Because without the foundation of how do you know the right tools to use? How do you know these tools is what's best for me, my workflow? Um, I think this foundation for me helps me in choosing the tools that are best for my workflow, and as an engineer, helps me decide if I need to build such tools myself. Um, so this foundation, it helps us clarify like what problem are we trying to solve with AI. In many cases, we think about software in general. There's a traditional software we have right now that has a front end, has a back end, has a database. There's also another version of software, machine learning. Machine learning is also software. It's also based on code. And we also have um, now we're moving towards more LLM driven systems, which are also software. All right. So in as much as software is evolving and having these different forms, at the end of the day, it's still software. So sometimes you might think, oh, I need to build an AI agent for this problem. However, there's been plethora of many years of machine learning models or even deep learning models that potentially will get the same job done at even cheaper. Like for instance, let's say I want to transcribe an audio. Right now, you could give Gemini or even OpenAI, and it's going to get the transcript for you. However, there are models, they are speech recognition models that you can run locally that can get the job done for you. The quality might vary, but compared to the cost of using a remote API with API cost versus using something local on your machine, you know, these are the things that is going to become more relevant, and especially when we scale this towards teams and enterprise levels. So this foundation is something I think is going to be even more relevant as we go on. Um, I've given you an example about coding agents. Coding agents, the cursors, the cloud code, they're really good at getting better at writing code. However, code is becoming cheaper, but the problem of software is becoming more expensive. Coding is just an element, a part of the software process. Because after we've written the software, we have to validate that we've written the right thing. We have to check it against the constraint we've given it. That okay, is it meeting some thresholds, some metrics, and so on. And this is what the entirety of, you can see, software business is built around, from the software engineering practice and the developers and engineers, as well as variety of platforms for DevOps, even AWS, Google, Azure. All of these systems are built primarily to manage software at scale. So, in as much as these coding agents are getting better, they have not fully solved the problem of reliable, scalable, secure software. So this foundation, in this case, is important of knowing uh, what are the agents good at. Like if I use Cloud Code, what is Cloud Code good at? What is Gemini CLI good at? Is there a way I can enforce some protection that degenerate good code? So these are the kind of level one thinking that helps me in my development of one coder. Um, so sticking with the example of one coder here, that yes, we can write code faster, but the risk that comes with the code is becoming higher because of all the vulnerabilities and all of the gaps um, that is there. And this is part of the aspect for me that comes with this thinking that development, software engineering in general, has always been more than coding, and it's all about translating human requirements into runnable machine. And at scale, we need that to be reliable enough, to be secure enough, to be scalable enough, to be able to handle various scenarios. So now going to the level two thinking. The level two aspect has to do with how we use this machine, how we use these tools. At the end of the day, these coding agents are a new form of software. And just as we have with the computer revolution back then, when the computer came out, the first thing we needed to do was to learn how to use these computers. Before we can even think to start building something on these computers, we have to first understand how to use this computer. So I think the same thing applies here with this AI agents, that um, the AI labs like OpenAI, Anthropic, and the likes, they are training these models. They are releasing this new AI software for us. And the first thing for me is I need to understand the variety of softwares, these AI softwares out there. At the end of the day, like I said, AI agents are also software. I need to understand how each of them work, what they're good at, what are their constraints, and things like that. And this is helping me in building with them. So, for instance, like with Cloud Code has things called skills, and this is a new phenomenon of agentic skills, and it's just a way to provide agents with an high-level standard operating playbook. And sometimes these skills can have access to scripts or MCP servers, access to tools that they can use to either get information or manipulate information and things like that. And for each of these coding agents, they have their own nuances. Like for Cloud Code, it uses the Cloud.md as its memory. For Gemini CLI, it uses Gemini.md as its own memory. So there are some nuances here that I, as a software engineer, I believe it's important to know as I walk through all of this, and which takes me to the third level, the innovation. Um, because here, in as much as the computer example, we need to first know how to use a computer, how to plug in to the right socket in order to get to have electricity, how to connect the monitor to the CPU and so on. Even before we add laptops that brought everything together, the line there, the common theme there is that a computer is a computer. Once we know how to use it, then we start to think like, okay, what are the things that I can do with these things? What are the softwares I can use with this? To be able to do that, you need to understand what are operating systems. Like we have the Mac OS, we have Windows, and so on. So the usage part is very important, and because when we have a good foundation on the level two, then we can get into the level three. And this cuts across multiple domains. Like innovation, there's still much innovation to be done in all areas of this AI software. For instance, if you are, like in my field in software, a lot of people say software is dead, but that's not true because that's limiting to what it comes from people having the wrong idea of what software really is. Software engineering is about a balancing act between multiple factors and constraints and things like that. So just as in other domains, right? There's this talk about, oh, AI is going to replace doctors. No, AI is only going to increase the need for doctors, just as AI is going to increase the need for softwares. Because once, for instance, in this case of AI with the coding agents, the coding agents, for instance, has maybe made what used to take a long time, like the syntax, the coding part, what used to take us hours, weeks, days, the coding has taken care. It's getting better at the coding part, which takes us up higher in the level of abstraction. That instead of thinking in syntax, now we have to think about why are we building software? What are we really building towards? What are we trying to solve? And then we can now start building up on them systems, putting systems together, managing constraints and things like that. So the framework for me helps me, understand and be able to understand where I am with different domains in software. Right now I'm trying to innovate for coding agents. However, I see that this framework works as well for other domains, whether it's an aspect of uh, generating content or automating business flows and so on. The same process follows, and I think this framework, it's a good foundation. At least it's been for me in my work so far with the academy and one coder, to help us get a have some clarity on what these agents are and how we can maximize the use to get the best outcome for our profession or our business. Thank you.